All right, now that we've talked a lot about rates of change and what slope really is, let's move on to the next section, and this is Chapter 5, Section 4, the slope equation. So get that jotted down at the top of your notes, and here we go. All right, in this picture, and what we've done so far is talked about finding slope from a graph. And we've talked about slope is the rise over the run, and I've started using this notation with you as well so that we get the idea that it is the change in the y value over the change in the x value. Now, if you have a graph, it's pretty easy to simply count and calculate it that way, like this one. We go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, the rise is 4. I went up 4, so that's positive. I went to the right 2. You get 4 over 2, which simplifies to plain old 2 or 2 over 1. And it's positive. That makes sense. We talked about yesterday how when it slants upward from left to right, that's a positive slope. Now today, what we're going to talk about is, well, what if I just have the points and I don't necessarily have a graph? All right, well, remember when I've said rise over run, and I've also used this notation because we've talked about how the rate of change, or the slope, is the change in the dependent variable y over the change in the x value. Well, what does that mean? That means we're taking our y values and we're finding the difference between them. And so the way to do that is, well, this is coordinates xy, this is coordinates xy. And so to tell them apart, we usually add these subscript numbers of 1 and 2. So I can say, hey, here's my first point, 2, 5. Here's my second point, 8, 1, and then we just subtract the two. So what's the difference in the y values? You can take your two y values and simply subtract them, 5 minus 1. Then you take your x values, the 2 and the 8, and subtract those. That gives you this fraction, or this ratio, 4 over negative 6, and that simplifies to be negative 2/3. Now, typically, we usually put the negative sign out front, but you could have it in the numerator, you can have it in the denominator, you can have it out front. It's all the same. What if I subtracted, but I did it in the other order? In other words, what if I put the 1 first and subtracted 5? What if I said 1 minus 5? I took this y value and I subtracted the 5. Then just be consistent. And since I started with this y variable, or this y coordinate, start with this x1, then take 8 minus 2. And watch what happens. I get negative 4 from my numerator. I get positive 6 for the denominator. You still end up with the same answer, negative 2/3. So really, it doesn't matter which order you subtract in, as long as you're consistent with which point you start with. So really, finding the slope means just subtract. That gives us now this big moment here where we talk about what is the slope equation. And here's what it says. If you have 2 points, any 2 points, and you have the coordinates, here's your first point, x1, y1, and here's your second point, x sub 2, y sub 2. What you can do to find the slope is simply find the difference. Take the two y values and subtract them. Take the two x values and subtract them. Okay, a couple of things I want you to notice here. Now, the way most algebra books write this formula is they say take the second y value, subtract the first one, then take the second x coordinate and subtract the first one. Frankly, we just saw it doesn't matter what order you do it in. You could take the first y coordinate minus the second y coordinate, and the first x coordinate minus the second x coordinate. You can do it this way as well. That's perfectly fine. All right? Just get the idea that you're subtracting, or in other words, finding the change in the y values over the change in the x values. Now, you're probably asking yourself, wait a minute, what on earth is this letter m doing here? Well, in most algebra textbooks, for hundreds of years, they have used the variable m to represent slope. And you will start to see this now. So now when I say what's m, I mean M stands for the slope. The question is, how on earth did they get that? Why? Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Go and look it up. I will give you some extra credit if you give me your source and tell me what you found as to why the variable m is used to represent slope. Because frankly, in English, there's no m in there. Why aren't we using s or something like that? So there's a little extra credit opportunity for you if you choose. All right, take a look at this one. What if you have a table? I'm telling you this table has a linear relationship, and I want to know what's the slope. Well, here's all you have to do. Pick any 2 points and find the change in y over the change in x. You choose whatever ones you want. I'm going to choose this one, and let's use this one. And it doesn't matter which ones you do, okay? I kind of like thinking of it as ordered pairs. So I'm thinking of it as -2 and 5, and this is the point 0, 1. All right, if I want to find the slope, like this, I'm going to say take your 2 y values and subtract them, 5 minus 1. Take your 2 x values and subtract them, -2 minus 0. Here's what we end up with, positive 4 over -2. That simplifies to be -2. You can check with any pair of points within this table and you will get the same answer. Let's take a look at what if I just give you an equation. What if you just have the equation of a line and I say, hey, what's the slope of this thing? Well, I don't have any points yet, so I suppose the first thing we should do is find some points on this graph and then I can find the slope. Okay, the easiest ones in the world are to find the intercepts. If you plug a 0 in for x, you would get -2y is 16. So your y value has to be -8, so your y-intercept is -8. Plug in a 0 for y, that would leave you with this equation, 4x equals 16. Aha, my x-intercept is 4. Now you have 2 points. Now you can figure out your slope because you've got 2 points. So I have 0, -8, and I have 4, 0. Here we go. Slope is always the change in the y values over the change in the x values. So you can take -8 minus 0, or if you want to go the other way, go 0 minus -8. It doesn't matter. You're going to get the same answer. Let's go 0 minus -8 because I hate getting negative signs. So 0 minus -8, that's my numerator, and then I'd take 4 minus 0. And look how nice this works out. This makes positive, so I get 8 over 4, which is 2. Done. Okay, so you can find the slope by looking at a graph. You can find the slope if I give you 2 points. You can find the slope if I give you a linear equation, and you can find 2 points on that line, and then go ahead and find the slope. Now, I want to go back to just put your pencils down and look at this one. Here's a graph that's showing an average of electricity costs in dollars for operating a refrigerator over a period of time for some months. Find the slope of the line. Okay, frankly, if I've got a graph, I'm probably just going to count from one to the other and figure out my rise over the run. Now, here's one thing to watch out for. I look at this graph and I say 1, 2, 3, 4. I went up 4. But these intervals aren't 1. Okay, so I really went from 12 up to 24. See that? I went from 12 to 24. So if you find the difference there, your change in your y values is really 12. The change in the x values, that went by ones. So that was just a 2-month time frame. Okay, so my slope in this particular word problem happens to be 6. This is 6. But it says, tell me what that slope really means now. And here's where it might be convenient or more clear if you leave it as a fraction, because remember that the numerator is your y value. Take a look at what the label is for the y-axis. This is money. Take a look at what the y value is, or at the x-axis label is. months. This is time. So now, what does the slope mean? It means it's positive, so it's a change of $6 a month that it's increasing. There you go. All right, for your assignment today, we walked through just a few selected problems in the workbook. In fact, I would just say take a look at number 1, take a look at number 4. I would do number 5, frankly. And then let's just hop and look at number 7. Pause the video, and then what I want you to do is go back and check your answers. All right, for number 1, as you look at this, take your y values. So you have 8 minus -3. All right, I said come and we'll check those workbook pages. I'm having a little trouble with my computer, so I'm going to end this video by simply saying check with me in class on those workbook ones. Do this assignment, which is page 324 to 325. These problems, it's basically just cranking out all those slopes. Good luck.